everyone, it's Zinia here from Abstract Inspiration, and I'm back with another art journaling process video with you using my favorite Shimmerz products. Today I'm gonna work on a really fun and very easy theme design, call it however you want. We're gonna create a beautiful abstract cityscape, and you can choose whatever colors you want or whatever products you want. But I chose to play around with some of the pastes of Shimmerz to add a lot of dimension and texture to my project. So I'm starting off by adding a thin layer of gesso, and I am working my gesso on the page repeatedly to make sure it's a thin application and it will dry fast. So we just work it horizontally and vertically to let it spread and dry as you put it there. Now I'm gonna add a bunch of colors to my palette here, and I'm gonna have all the colors on the blog, so make sure to check it out. And I'm also gonna do a couple of mixes just to get the colors I want. So here I have Baby Boy Blue and Tree Hugger. They're both pasties, and I'm gonna mix them together to create a middle shade, I guess. This is one of my favorite mixes with pasties. I really love it. And I'm also gonna pull the Dazzlers Foiled Again, which is a beautiful silver, and I took that because I want to color it with some Distress Reinker. I just wanted to try it out and see how the Dazzlers take color of the Reinkers. So I used the Cracked Pistachio Distress Oxide Reinker. I'm gonna add a few drops, and I actually added a lot, and it was very creamy and opaque. I really like that look, but I believe I could get away with adding a little bit less and preserve some more of that color. But just experiment and have some fun. You can definitely add Distress Oxides to your paste. They take it really well, they color really beautifully, and you can just make customized mixtures that also match with your distress line if that's what you want. Anyway, that was a little experiment there, and this is my palette, and I'm almost ready to start. But then I decided, I want to add some neutrals, so I'm gonna add some black gesso and some white gesso there in the middle to help me with the mixes during the process. And I especially wanted to do the black gesso because you see how I started the first brush stroke of that beautiful minty Dazzlers. It was barely visible, and I thought it would look just gorgeous if you put it on top of black. So that's how I came up with that. Now the gesso is not entirely dry, but that's not a problem. I don't mind some white streaks, and I'm gonna start creating these rectangular pieces. I am doing a more structured look at the first half of my page, and then I just do a very light and quick brush stroke at the bottom, and it will be kind of like the reflection. So imagine like a skyline, like this, the buildings on the horizon, and then you have the horizon, you have like some sort of sea or lake or river or some sort of water that reflects all the buildings in the light, and that's the look I'm going for here. I'm starting with the darkest. I'm putting some black and kind of duller colors for the back layers. And the fun with this technique is that you can just keep adding and keep adding until you're happy with it. So if I add a color I don't really like, or my drawing is very not so perfect, very leaning a little bit to the side or whatever, something I don't like, I can just add another layer on top of it and cover it with some other color. I am trying to dry the layers in between, but I am not being very particular about this. I just play around with my heat tool for a little while, just making it barely dry to the touch so the colors won't blend way too much, but sometimes they still pull as I put my brush on top of them. It doesn't really matter as long as you're happy with the way that looks. I really like that blended look, and I think it looks a bit more natural. So that's that. And you see how beautiful that minty color there looks from the Distress Oxide is very opaque and way more matte compared to the other products I have here. But that's the beauty of it. You use the different types of textures, the different kinds of pastes, and you get different finishes and you get that variety, and I really love it. Also, see how gorgeous that color is. I told you this is my favorite, one of my favorites at least, the pasties mixture. It's a Tree Hugger and the Baby Boy Blue, and it's just such a gorgeous color. And you see that my buildings are not really so great. It's just very wonky and random and very quickly drawn. Now, I decided that I wanted some color around. I should have thought about it before I started adding the buildings, but you know, it doesn't really matter because I'm gonna add a lot of layers up on top of that anyway. So I pulled some sprays from my stash. This is Shimmerz in Shimmerings in heavy metal. And I really love that kind of like rusty, just kind of like a rusty finish, rusty color of it, very light pigment. I also added Well Blew Me Down and Glorious Day in smaller portions. And you know, I don't think about it too much, just placing some color here and there, drawing in between and spraying. I'm gonna damp some of the color here with the paper with a little towel. And because of my pastes were a bit wet still when I added these, and of course the extra moisture re-wetted them and revived them. As I'm pulling the color with my towel, I leave texture marks on the page, and I thought that was freaking awesome. I should have thought about it and done it on purpose, but oh well, it worked out perfectly here. Just to smoothen up the color, I'm gonna use my brush again and pull some of the streaks of color to help it blend with the whole vertical look I'm going for here. And just drying it until, you know, it's a little bit dry. Again, try to the touch, I would say, so it can add color on top of it without smudging it extremely too much. And here I thought I will just smudge through the whole page and kind of like pull some of the color too to create that the pulled color look, basically just to smudge everything out and blur the image and make it ready for my next layer of color. And for my next layer, I decided to leave my brush aside and use a palette knife, and that gives a really cool effect. It's a lot more of texture, and it makes it so much easier if you have that small size, because you're basically able to just do one stroke and create a building, and it's really fun. It takes a lot of effort away. And I'm building up some of the warmer colors now. This is the textures, and I absolutely adore this color. The thing with the texture is that they are so textured, obviously, that they leave a lot of empty spots as you pull the color down, especially with a palette knife. I'm not sure. I believe you can get a little bit of smoother stroke if you use your brush, but I really love how it skips a lot like that. It's just beautiful. This is actually a mixture of white gesso and the Dazzlers, the pink Dazzlers. That name is, I totally forgot the name right now, but I will have all the color names in the corresponding blog post, so make sure to check it out. And I created this very beautiful baby blue shade, and it's also more opaque and has that white backdrop. It's kind of like similar in finish to the mixture I had with the Distress Oxide, and I thought they blended nicely together to have another color similar to that. As I'm moving to the forward layers of this spread, this page, I took a smaller brush. Again, I'm using a flat brush because I want to get some flat strokes and create some more, some smaller buildings closer to me as I go, you know, shorter and thinner, which actually doesn't make sense. That's kind of like, that was bad thinking because as when the buildings are closer to you, they're supposed to be taller and bigger instead of smaller and thinner. But at that point I was just, I don't know, that's how my brain worked while I was working on this page, and I can't say I care about this. So it doesn't matter if you don't have a realistic concept, if the perspective is wrong, if the whole idea behind this is wrong. I'm really so happy with how it looks, and I just can't get enough of it. You're free to adjust it and do it right, so do smaller buildings behind, and as you get towards the front you do bigger shapes. But I kind of like to have more variety in color as I'm getting forward, so I really like having the smaller strokes ahead in the front level. To finish the page, I took some white gesso and I blended it around the edges just to lighten it up a little bit, and that's how it's done. I really hope you enjoyed this technique. It's really fun, and you can make a lot of use of your favorite pastes and different colors. Really, you can mix acrylic paints or your Shimmerz paints, or you can even make it as like a watercolor look using your creamies and inklings. It's up to you really. You just maybe need to wait for the layers to dry before you proceed to the next one. Actually, I believe this design will look really beautiful on a watercolor effect and letting the colors blend together. So I really hope someone will try it out and show an example, because that would be really fun. So again, thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed, please give this video a thumbs up and subscribe here. Don't forget that if you want to place an order on Shimmerz and grab some products, you can mention my name and get a free sample. And just hop over to the blog to check all the details about this project. And thank you so much for watching. Bye!